All right, great. Welcome everyone. And if we could, maybe we could start by muting our mics. Great, that works. Welcome to the November 23rd meeting of the Capital Improvement Committee. And I'm just, as I start out every meeting, I'm just going to start by saying a few words of what the committee does or what the charge of the committee is. Our charge is to implement the policy, the CIP policy. Basically what CIP does is it gives us a process to rank and prioritize our capital expenditures based on the goals set forth in the comp plan and a formalized set of evaluation criteria that are in the policy. Just a few of the benefits of the program include helps us to focus our attention on achieving our goals, and while also encouraging a coordinated approach to problem solving. It helps us to save for capital expenditures over time. This helps us to reduce debt and the costs related to borrowing, and also encourages us to, rather than defer spending, helps us to spend as we go rather than deferring a lot of our expenditures. Also helps us to stabilize the tax rate by carefully vetting and helping us to distribute expenditures over time. It improves, or it helps the department heads with regard to analyzing and forecasting their future needs by knowing that each year they have to go through this process, so they have to keep their schedules updated, they have to put their applications together, and they have to answer questions early on in the process. So in a number of respects, I think the selectmen feel, I know I feel, is good governance. So thank you all for participating, and thank you others that are watching for taking an interest. So tonight, here we are, we're in our process. And the last meeting, Ruth introduced our booklet materials to us for this year. This is the expenditure year 21, FY, although the town is on it's calendar year 21, so for calendar year 21. And this meeting, what we're going to set out to do is to put together talk about the applications and the schedules, and put together a list of questions that staff can give to department heads to just kind of give them some guidance with regard to the meeting that they'll be coming to meet with us, which I believe is scheduled for December 1st. After meeting with the department heads, we'll all gather again. And I believe that those dates are all on the calendar by now. I don't have it in front of me at the moment. And then we'll all go off and we'll score the applications based on the criteria in the policy, and then get together one last time to, once those scores are collated, to see where the rankings come out, and hopefully be in a position to move forward those recommendations to the select board. So anyway, that's where we are. And before we go any further, I think one piece of business here I didn't take care of at the beginning is the pledge. So why don't we just take a moment here and go ahead and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And if we could also, I think as the next order of business, if we could just do our round robin where everyone goes through and introduces themselves, so we also know who we have here this evening for the record. If you could just, state your name. And why don't we start? Joe, you want to kick it off for us?
Certainly. Hi, everybody. This is Joe Tom, 11 Ada Drive. Who's next?
Michelle?
Yep, Michelle Rulo, David Lewis Drive.
Yeah, Mark Farron, 44 Colonial Drive.
Wonderful. Now, do we have Brian or Curtis? No Brian or Curtis. Okay, very good. And I'm Paul First. Leslie Hill. Okay, so if we could mute our mics. Mute your mic, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. So again, tonight we're going to be talking about the schedules and the applications, and then coming up with a list of questions to discuss with the department heads during our next meeting on December 1st. I think to start off here, with just some general questions about process, Ruth, or our committee members, I'll throw it out too. How do we want to go about this with regard to compiling the questions? I think I did it last year. I'm happy to do it again. The only thing I'd ask is after the discussion tonight, if everyone could also email me their questions so I make sure I capture them adequately, not just based on the discussion tonight. But I think, I guess I see this as tonight as a chance for us all to talk about the questions. But if you could email them to me, that'd be really helpful. And if we do go that route, then I would appreciate it if you could email them to me by close of business on Wednesday, because I believe that our next meeting is on December 1st, which is Tuesday, and we want to try to get them in the hands of the department heads at least by Monday. So if you could give me those by Thursday, that'd be very helpful. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Great. All right. And also before we get too far along, I know I'm kind of skipping all over the place here, but I want to make sure to take a moment here to welcome Mark. Mark, thank you very much for coming this evening. I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think having a select board member here on the committee is really going to help us in terms of, communication and some, cross-pollination. So I think it'll make all of our jobs much easier. I really appreciate your presence here tonight and want to welcome you. We're really pleased to have you.
Yeah, good. Hey, no problem. I'll be here as much as I can. I can't guarantee every meeting, but I'll be here as much as I can for sure.
Okay, that's wonderful. So let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to compile questions. Any other general questions about process from the group before we get into the nitty-gritty?
So I do have a question, or just maybe to revisit. So last time we had talked about reserves and budget and all that information, but that's not so much of our concern, correct? That's more of just sort of background information for us.
Well, I think it's that it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have questions about the reserve, it's certainly very appropriate.
Yeah. Okay.
Although, we're not really scoring on that basis.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I did have a question. So about the bond payments, did we get a copy of the paving schedule? Of course, we don't rate that. That's not part of CIP, but I believe, if I recall correctly, that it's in the policy. And the idea of it being there in the policy is that it gives us a better sense of new debt that may be coming down the road when we're looking at these future expenditures. You did a wonderful job, and thank you for the detail that you put together in that payment schedule. That was really helpful. But what I'm wondering about is, what's missing in terms of the larger picture, and future road debt bonds that are coming along. Ruth? There you go.
I was looking through some other things and then I realized I was muted.
Yeah, you all the time.
So Calvin had sent me a list of the Capital Road Improvement Plan. There's nothing to be rebuilt for a while. I believe he said about 10 years. So I can forward you what he had sent to me, because we did talk about getting that to you and I probably just never forwarded it.
Okay, so it sounds like then we're not anticipating any big road projects within the next, say, 5 years?
No.
Okay. Okay, great. The other thing that I might suggest here is, since Ruth is with us now, Ruth, now, you've got this application here with regard to admin and town office, the 2022 town office reorganization application. So were you planning on attending on December 1st also?
Yes.
I mean, if we have questions about that.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
planning.
Okay. Sounds good. So, we'll go ahead, and I think what we'll do is we will go, we can go ahead and discuss that later this evening. And then, of course, you'll get those questions. I don't think we necessarily have to do it right now.
Okay.
Let me just look through my list here, Ruth, to see if I had any other questions for you.
Ruth, can you hear me all right?
Ruth, can you remind us how the revenue from auto excise tax is handled? Does that go directly to their operations budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
None of it goes into capital reserve.
No.
Yeah. Can you also remind me of what the start date was for the Public Works program? And when we purchased the vehicles from the contractor and the building?
Yeah,
Was
it was
that 14?
2014, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I understand, and this may be a question for Mark, or, I'm not sure which one of you wants to chime in, but I understand that the board is planning to put an assessment of services and equipment out to RFP for the fire department assessment.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So I guess my question is how will that, Mark, do you think, how will that expenditure be handled? Is that something that's going on the warrant or ballot? And if not, where is the funding coming from for that?
Well, I don't know if we got an answer on that yet. I think we're trying to understand how much it is, and then it'll probably go on the warrant, I guess. Ruth, any thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on how much the RFP comes back is. If it's less than $10,000 and it's not a capital cost, right? It's, I think, $10,000 in 5 years is the parameters for it being a capital improvement cost. So if it's not, right, Paul, you're frowning.
That's right. No, sorry, I frown a lot. So, yeah, and I got to say, I would suspect you're like somewhere right around borderline.
Yeah.
Oh, New Gloucester did one of these last spring with a contractor over in New Hampshire, and they did public works and fire and rescue. And I think the total was around 1,500, or excuse me, 15,000. So, depending on the contractor, you're probably right around that. I was just, curious if there was a plan there,
Yeah, I think we initially had scoped around 10,000 is what we were thinking, but.
Yeah, that's probably really close. All right, so so there's no plan yet for, just trying to figure out, does that fit into the CIP process? It sounds like it's kind of fluid at the moment.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's pretty much all, that's all the admin related questions I think that I had for you, Ruth, up front. I don't know, the other committee members might have questions for you too.
You guys hear me all right?
Yes,
Okay, so I got a couple questions because I'm just trying to, I went and reprinted out all my stuff again because I thought I had the wrong stuff last time. But, I've got applications here that have 2021 on top and 2020 on top. And that the date prepared is ranges from 2019 through 10/29/30. So what I'm looking for is, I don't actually know. I've read through everything I have in front of me, but I don't know really what it is everybody's asking for. But this year, the 2020 to 2021, it is very confusing. And I went back and printed it, went through the recent emails, and it's all the dates throughout the pages are not in sync. And I'd really like us to get a clean copies because honestly, I don't know what anyone's asking for at this point.
I think part of the challenge is, traditionally, or at least the tradition we tried to start was doing notebooks. So we'd have an annual notebook each year.
No,
We get a
I,
hard
no,
copy.
I realize that, but just what was sent to me, the dates that are on it are not in lines with this year. And I just
Yeah.
like,
We talked about that, yeah, a little bit, Joe. And that was brought up at the last meeting, that some of the dates on the applications aren't correct, Ruth.
yeah.
I can't recall which ones, but some of them say 2020, but it should say 2021.
Can we just have a list of what it is that everybody's asking for? Just so I can match up the words with what it is. Just a quick, because there was only like 5 items. But
Good.
one of them's a repeat from last year, or at least 2 of them are. Again, I have no problem with the request, but it's, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right page and the most up-to-date page. And I did go back and reprint everything all over again off a different computer that shows you my email in better order than the way your iPhones or regular phones do. And still it came out with a myriad of dates and requests.
Okay. So there's a request for the reserve account for fire department.
Okay, that's for $223,000, $141.73.
No, that's what exists in the reserve account.
Okay,
What he is actually requesting, I think off the top of my head, is
it's a typo, but he prepared this 10 years in the future.
He didn't put it in there. That's a really good point.
did he not?
All right, good.
Okay,
But
so
he's asking for $100,000. That's at least what's in the spreadsheet. Is that correct?
yes. Well,
Spreadsheet.
let's see here. Was Trust Trite serving fire request historically the town? You're right, there's no,
So I don't have a spreadsheet that shows that.
yeah, so that would be, so you have a spreadsheet that includes a bunch of different tabs. Here, hold on.
I only saw the town work spreadsheet. So
Hold on.
forgive me, but I went back in there and spent about an hour on it the other day and didn't find what I was looking for. So
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find the right thing. I just want to make sure that I have the right one. Yep, I do. All right, so I'm going to share my screen.
I actually, Ruth, want to have it printed out in front of me so you can share it, but it doesn't, yeah, I have that spreadsheet. I've seen
Okay.
that before.
Okay. So we'll stop sharing that one. So you're absolutely right. If I look at the applications from the chief,
Yeah.
his does not specify a dollar amount on the reserve request.
Yep.
So I will, that should be one of our questions, to see if he can specify. My assumption is that we're going with the 100,000 this year, but he needs to, oh, wait a second. So under total estimated cost on his request, he says $100,000, but that is not the total estimated cost of the apparatus that he's looking for each year.
Yeah, well, related to that, I think this application would be a lot simpler if he just said it's a reserve request and just says that, he has the following apparatus is coming up and just says how much he's requesting for, for the year.
Yeah,
I think, this would benefit. I'm not sure how we give feedback on, for example, the applications, because I know, sometimes we, for example, the date and this missing piece, what the best way is for us to get, things, how should I say, a little more polished.
But just put up at the top what they're asking for, rather than have it down in the middle of it. Might be helpful. I don't know. I want $100,000. It's, because I went right to the number in the middle. It says reserve account balances.
well, he's working off of the form that we gave him. So if we want to change the form,
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's hard to read. I don't know what he's really looking for. And
I really think that if we want to get into changing the format of the form, that's,
Yeah.
with the policy and all that, that there may be there probably are some improvements to make, but
Yeah.
it would be wonderful if we could do those at the end of the process or in a fall meeting before the process has already started. Because at this point, the department heads have, mostly done what we've asked of them. And
No,
they have
that's
returned
fine.
their applications.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just pointing out it's hard to go through this and look at.
Yep.
let's see here. So Joe, do you want me to tell you exactly what the applications are this year? So that, and if you guys want me to print this stuff out, and put it into books, I can do that. You guys can just come to the office and pick them up if you'd like.
I think I'm looking at 5 applications.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Some of them are labeled 2020 and 2021. So, okay.
Okay. Joe, do you have that spreadsheet file with the tabs?
I do on my other, yep.
Okay, because that's also really important in addition to the applications, because that has all the replacement schedules, the vehicle inventories, and that combined spreadsheet that Ruth put together, which matches up the replacement schedule with the anticipated reserve balances.
Yep.
Okay. I know me personally, Ruth, I think, going forward, I'd love to have, the hard copy notebooks for me is the easiest way to go. This year, with understanding of, this crazy, situation we all find ourselves in with regard to working a little differently with Zoom and all of that. I'm pretty much in that electronic files mode these days. So I'm okay this year with not doing hard copy. That said, my hope is that in the future we can kind of make that a tradition to have the notebooks, just because I think it makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah, I'm a hard copy person. I like to have something in front of me that I can write on and read.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, and thank you. You know, again, I think that the package in total looked pretty good this year. But I still do wonder about how, for example, we get errors corrected on the applications, like, you know, the year, the amount, that kind of stuff.
Well,
That should somehow be corrected.
I didn't see where the years were off on any of, well, no, I didn't see where the years were off on any of the applications up top.
Mhm.
You know, the date prepared has this year on it.
The
So
fire
you-
department says capital request 2020. It'd be nice if they just all said consistency, you know,
Does it?
like budget year
Yeah.
2021.
That's
Yeah.
what I have, 2020, and I've got a date prepared, it's 10/29/30. So.
See,
Well,
Other-
mine says 2021. I wonder if I fixed it after I sent it to you guys.
The other one that says
that-
2020 is the market value adjustment.
Okay, except for that's not for this year.
It's last year.
Okay,
Yeah, this is a great example of why it's important for those dates to be correct.
yeah, because I mean, this says reserved to be spent in 2021. I thought that we didn't do the market value adjustment. We were gonna go and,
We didn't do it, and we were going to do it in the process next year because we were going to kind of wait to see what the market does in the next year. And you know, with the COVID stuff, it's just so unsure at this point.
no, that's fine. So what's the fifth one then? Now I'm down to 4 applications.
So the fifth one is just a request for $10,000 to go into the town, well, a municipal building fund with the
Who's that
thought. Did you find that one?
No, who's that from?
Well, that's from me.
Okay, let me look for it.
So let me see what it's called. What did I call it?
Office reorganization.
Application for admin reserve.
I got way too much paperwork here in front of me. Have it at all. I'll have to go back and look. All right. Well, keep going, and
Hey, Ruth,
I'll have to go on the other machine and put that out.
can you send me over the spreadsheets and stuff? I think I wasn't on a distribution list when you probably first sent them out. So
Oh, sure, of course.
there you go. No worries. Thank you.
Actually,
Okay,
Mark, you would have gotten them as a selectman originally, but I'll send you
Oh,
the
I can
updated.
go back. I can go
No, no,
back
no,
now.
I'll send you the updated ones anyways, because you guys did change a couple things.
okay. Well, that's pretty much all I have for Ruth. Is there anyone else, Michelle, Mark, or Joe, any other further questions for Ruth at this point?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, very good. Ruth. have a
Yes.
good evening.
Well, I'll still be on because I'm going to keep recording, but
Okay,
I will mute myself and stop my video.
all right, sounds good. All right. Okay, let's see. How about we kick it off with Public Works? Are you guys okay with that? If we start with Public Works?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
that worked.
Okay, yeah, great work.
All right. I was
All right.
hoping we could,
I was hoping we could
oh, we got the echo going again.
get the,
So I was hoping maybe we'd start with the replacement schedule. Did anyone have any questions about the Public Works replacement schedule? I know Ruth answered most of my questions right up front with regard to, you know, when the program started and how that auto excise tax is handled. Does everyone have a copy of the replacement schedule in front of them?
I
Are
do
you
not.
referring to
I
the,
do not.
I guess Mark doesn't.
I guess Mark doesn't.
Yeah, let me see here.
Let me see here.
Try to share.
Try to share.
Mark, I just emailed you
I
it.
just emailed you it all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can everyone see that? Was I successful in sharing that, my desktop? Okay, wonderful.
Okay, wonderful.
So Public Works replacement schedule over here to the right. And you'll see that in FY21, the request is for, his request is for $95,000 for a 1.5 ton single axle dump truck. And that the new cost of that vehicle, this would be in addition to the fleet, is my understanding, would be $95,000. So he's asking for those funds as a, as a project. And then he's also asking for funds to put into reserve. I believe $100,000 to put into reserve. And then you'll see coming up in 22, we have another one of the 2014 tandem axle dump trucks. Okay, this is one of the original trucks, a 2001 International 2000 SE. So this truck is 20 years old, which is really old for a plow truck. And then notably, I did also see that in 23 and 24, he's got pickups coming up. He's got a 3500 dump truck. I believe this is a Chevy 35 or a GMC 3500 dump truck. Last purchase date 2014. So he's got that coming up after 9 years. He has that coming up. And then shortly after that, he's got the pickup truck coming up, the 2500 pickup truck. So, we can get into some of these, specific questions with regard to the current applications once we look at the questions or once we look at the applications themselves. But I was wondering if anyone had specific questions about the Public Works schedule at this point. Okay, if not, I'd like us to move on to the Public Works applications, if that's okay with you guys. So the first application that we have from Public Works, and I'm sorry, I don't have those files here accessible for the applications themselves, so I can't share that screen. But maybe you could all just let me know if you have those applications in front of you. And again, this is Public Works.
Again, this is Public Works.
It's for the 1.5 ton dump truck.
yep, I'm good.
Yeah, I got it in front of me.
Okay, you're gonna have to give me a moment here. Looking to find what I did with mine. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so basically this application says, as planned since the creation of the Public Works Department, we've added a full-time position, which allows us to split the crew and have them working at different locations within the town. What's become apparent is that we do not have enough trucks to support this practice. Each crew needs a small dump truck to be fully equipped with safety signals and tools. Currently, we have 2 1-tons and a pickup truck. The pickup is driven by the road commissioner, who bounces back and forth between job sites, attends other meetings with contractors and other professionals, with the other 2 1-tons at 2 separate work sites. There is no truck available for maintenance of town properties or for the mechanic to run for parts or get to the job sites to make repairs. Additionally, the 1 tons and pickup truck are used to plow in winter months. The operations plan has always been to have these smaller trucks plow the developments and dead-end streets. This is more than these trucks were designed to do, and it takes several trips in and out of each road to remove the snow. The proposed truck would be a bit larger than a 1 ton and be equipped with a wing in addition to a plow. It would also be equipped with live hydraulics to operate a side dump salt and sand application system like the larger trucks. This will allow us to treat the roads at the same time they're plowed, whereas the current trucks do not have that capability. Yet another benefit is that a commercial's driver's license is not required. Yeah, okay. The bottom line is that this truck will solve 3 problems. Provides us with a much needed additional truck to the fleet for construction. Creates safer roads by allowing the bigger trucks to focus on the more traveled throughways in winter months. And 3, will cut down on the wear and tear of the smaller trucks by allowing them to focus on parking lots and intersection cleanup. So, who has questions and thoughts about this application? I can kick things off a little bit here.
A little bit.
So I had a few questions. One question that I had was, I was wondering if the selectman or Calvin could share with us the vision of, adding the additional employee and, the vision for the crew moving forward that's related to adding this new employee, which in turn is one of the reasons, we need this new vehicle. So
I think that employee was added last year, right? So that was approved by the town, so.
okay. And I'd like to hear a little more context from Calvin with regard to, what the size of the crew and, why the employee was added. Is it, so we can run 2 crews? So we have adequate flagging, for ditching projects and projects in the summer. It would just be a little helpful to kind of have a little bit of the context there.
I think didn't he put in the application that he was running 2 crews?
Yeah, well, it's not really clear. He said so we split the crew, but then later on he says that he's already running 2 crews. So, and I'm sure that, that depends upon the job, the season and the job at hand to some extent. But I think it would be helpful to have just a little more information from Calvin.
Yeah,
there.
it probably needs to come from him, but I mean, he's talked to the board in a couple different reviews about just how not having that additional truck causes issues with, running to get parts, driving to the job site, pretty much everything he said in the thing, but he can reiterate some more.
Yeah, and I guess, what I like, and what I'm hoping to discuss a little bit with Calvin, and I'm not sure if I've really distilled the exact question yet, but that I see that, part of this truck is part of the duties are for things like, running parts and probably for, general buildings and grounds maintenance kind of jobs where you may not need a dump, where you may not need that, 1.5 ton, where you basically just need to transport manpower and tools. And then I see that I believe in a couple years, we have this 2008 coming up. We have the 2008 dump truck that currently plows these subdivisions coming up. And, more or less are there other options? Does he see other options if he didn't get this truck? what his other options would be with regard to, possibly, I see the 2008 truck is coming up in the next year or two. Would it be an option to wait until 2008? Or does this additional crew member just simply put us over the top? And there's no other way to do it than to, have the truck now. Is there a truck that, that could be retired if we're adding to the fleet? And do we have all our trucks, if we get this truck, what about the other two trucks? I'm not clear. I know one of them is a dump, and I know Calvin drives a pickup. And then there are these two other, small trucks. And are both of those other small trucks dumps? It's not really clear in the inventory whether they are or not, whether they're dump, whether, I know they're all 1 tons, but it's not really clear whether they're all dumps. So I can work on my questions on that a little more. But I guess kind of the next. My nexus of the question is, if it's taking over some of the duties for that 2008 Chevy dump that is not really adequate, it's too small to plow the subdivisions, which really, I'm sure, that's a really good idea because, Durham, we adopt those subdivision roads. And so they're town roads. A lot of communities don't, but, we do. And so we have to figure out an efficient way to get them plowed. So a lot of what I'm hearing there really makes sense to me from that regard. But would it make sense to wait a couple years and just replace that 2008 Chevy dump when it comes up in 2 more years?
So, but then are they saying that's essentially still leaving them with 1 truck short based on their needs for their crew? And I was sort of questioning along this, similar to what you were asking, and kind of wondering who was driving that truck. So are they taking that one for repairs and maintenance, or are they using it for the job sites and using one of the other trucks for the repairs, for the maintenance? Yeah. So I was a little unclear about that.
Yeah, it's not really that clear. And is there that he can use for running parts and for those kind of things, for casual maintenance? It's just a pickup truck. Do we need, I guess the root of the question is, do we need 3 dump trucks versus because there's I know in a lot of towns, a lot of the crew work of things that simple facilities maintenance, running parts, that's usually a pickup. So I just want to make sure we're not buying ourselves into too much, more than we need. Okay, any other questions? How about Joe? Do you have any questions?
Sorry, just came back. So we're asking for another truck, aren't we?
Yeah, he's asking to add to the fleet for another truck.
No, but 2 trucks.
No, this is a different application. Okay,
Not
so
just
this
one.
is not his reserve application, but this is a project application for a 1.5 ton dump truck that he doesn't want to buy in a few years. He wants to buy it in 21.
Okay, because I thought he was actually asking for 2 trucks this year.
No,
this
that-
one and another one.
No, he's for that other application is really just to add funds to his reserve account.
Okay. And why can't we put Sanders and Salts on the other 2 trucks? Did you guys talk about that already?
No, but it's a good question. So
Yeah, and And the other thing is what about his pickup truck? Isn't that a 3/4 ton pickup? Or a 1 ton pickup he's got? He's got an
Well-
F-350?
I'll tell you what, hold on, let me look into his vehicle inventory and see if he tells us.
Because I'm just like, I get it, he's got to do stuff, but when it comes to plowing time, I don't know why his truck can't go out on the street too, but. Or at least for the guy to fix the other vehicles or get them off the street. I would think that that would be an acceptable vehicle to use. So I'm having a hard time with this one, actually.
So his truck is a 2015 GMC 2500 HD.
Okay,
So
3/4 ton.
is that a 3/4 ton?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So, I just, I mean, what about, I mean, what would the cost be to convert his truck to something that plows? I get the wing is on this, but I don't see a 1.5 ton dump pushing all the snow that we get after the big trucks go through. I would think you'd break that faster than a larger truck. So
Well-
do we just need another truck to plow the neighborhoods to get the bulk of it? Because when I've seen them run through here, I see them run through with the small truck just to get everything opened up so that you can get apparatus down there, meaning like fire, and just keep the roads open. But when it really comes time to plowing any of the neighborhoods, you're gonna run the big trucks through here regardless. And I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way to do this with keeping the same amount of trucks on, or replacing his and making his a duty vehicle.
Yeah. Now, and I think that's another good question is what's, his role in his truck during the snow response?
Exactly.
What I've seen him out there doing intersections and, going through and doing intersections as he kind of inspects and, checks out other things. But I'm sure he probably has a route too. He probably, even if it's like an intersection route, he's got all these guys during the response, they have a plow route.
Yeah, I'm just
But it would,
I'm just looking at his as being 5 years old, and is that a useful mechanism, vehicle to do this job if you stuck a sander on the back? Because I
Yeah.
can't believe that the sander would be much bigger on the 1.5 ton truck. And then, like I say, upgrade him and put his truck in use as an everyday vehicle for this. I don't know. It's a thought.
well, yeah, and another way to kind of phrase the question might be because, gosh, I know there's a lot of complexity in his operations, but another way we could possibly phrase it is, so Calvin, let's say you didn't get this truck. What would your options be? How,
Right.
what would your next step be? What would the alternative be?
Yeah, because I would think that you'd be able to set up, another truck like his, for a bit cheaper than what this price tag is. Not by much, but it would save a little. And then,
Yeah.
like I say, I'm just wondering what the trade-off would be there. What couldn't you do if you didn't have the wing plow? Because that's the only thing you probably couldn't put on that vehicle he has today. I mean, I get it. He needs an extra vehicle for the guy to go out and help fix things, and he can't be that taxi driver either, or the Uber. So I understand what he's looking for, but I'm Just wonder if there's a different trade here you can do and save a few bucks.
Right, or possibly, if this is the truck you need, replacing one of the existing vehicles at some point in the near future versus adding to the fleet.
Right, one of the smaller vehicles, right, exactly.
Okay. Okay, so other questions? And so Joe, you'll email me any of your specific questions on that application?
Yeah, I can do that. It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Michelle or Mark, did you guys have any questions about that application?
No, nothing additional.
No, nothing for me.
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Not a lot of applications this year, certainly fewer than in last year. So that certainly is one that I know from my perspective, when I look at it, I look at these replacement schedules with regard to the capital reserves. And, I don't know about you guys, but, I see this from the perspective of, we have to start adding to those reserves. And I know last year, we didn't do much for a number of reasons. I think, one of them is, of course, I think we're as a town, we're still very heavily engaged in this investment that we've made in our roads. But these things are coming to the surface, I think, and we're going to have to do better about putting money in reserve. I think, going forward here in the next few years. All right, so the next one here.
Hey, Paul, just on that,
Yeah.
that subject, sorry, I just thought of something else. So it's more of a question for Mark. Mark, is there an incentive plan for Calvin in regards to, the vehicle that is given to him? I mean, I know some, agencies or municipalities provide trucks to, the head of the DPW, et cetera, and they're replaced on a certain basis. Was any of that in any of the contracts that, or any of the?
No, not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, I'm just curious.
It's just a, yeah, I mean, they call it his vehicle. I mean, he does, I think every time I drive by, it's always parked at the Public Works garage, but.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know if it was quote unquote a perk, I'll call it, which is fine. I have no problem with that. It just wondering if that was what the situation was before we went and took the truck away. So
I've never heard of it called a park or anything like that. So I think it's just
Is there a policy on personal use of the town vehicles, or maybe it just kind of hasn't risen to that level, really?
Yeah, I don't think it's risen to that level that I know of. I've never heard it discussed before.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so now the second request from Public Works is the reserve request. Let's all take a moment to take a look at that. Okay, so this request has a priority rating of 3. Project title, public 2001 International 2000 SE tandem axle dump plow truck replacement. That really project title should be Public Works Equipment Reserve. And it's a reserve request. Because, the money that goes into the reserve, part of it could be used for that truck, part of it could be used for the next truck or for whatever reason. We've got a current reserve account balance is $62,000 roughly. And the project description is replacement of truck number 6, a 20-year-old tandem axle plow truck. Okay, so, he's kind of looking, but again, this isn't a project. This money would go into reserve. But I think he's just trying to highlight here that this truck is coming up, okay? That the International 2000 SE is coming up next year, okay, guys? So, and this truck again is 20 plus years old. Most communities, they're in the 10, 12, 14, maybe 16-year range for truck replacement. So this one's this one's pretty old. It's too bad they don't build them like this anymore. That's quite impressive that this truck's been on the road for 20 years. And then he says, yes, state law requires municipalities to clear roads of snow and debris and otherwise keep roads safe and passable. Total estimated cost is $200,085. Basis of cost estimate, purchase in 2020 plus 3%. All right. And so what he's asking for is he's asking to put 100,000 in reserve this year for that upcoming expenditure. I believe the schedule said next year. If I recall correctly, hold on here. Oh gosh, I got to get rid of all these other sheets that I created. Garages and offices. Here we go. Oh, no, getting close. Oh, boy.
It looks like he's replacing.
Here he is, here right here.
2022.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So he's got it coming up, not this next year, not this next fiscal year, but the year after. So he's asking for this money in anticipation of, and I think this is something to pay attention to, because this is, at least from my perspective, it's a 20-year-old truck, and and it's coming up, and we only have $68,000 in the account. And so if we don't put that money in there, then, we could be in a situation of, having to go out to bond. If we don't put some money in there.
Hey, Paul, it's Mark.
Yeah.
Do we know, like, before we start talking about what we want to put in there for capital reserve, like, do we have an estimate on, for example, how close the public works budget is going to be to what their actual is? So the budgeted versus their actual, because the balance of that goes into, I believe in the fire department, the public works case goes into the capital reserve account. So
Oh, it's a good question.
we can talk about,
That's a
the
roof.
$60,000 request, but he may underspend. I know the last 2 years he's underspent his budget.
Yeah.
And put money into the reserve account. But
Yeah. And so, chances are pretty good that there's going to be something significant left there. And maybe Michelle or Joe, maybe you can help me. I seem to recall that Ruth touched upon that at the last meeting, but I can't remember exactly where she came down.
And I just hate for us to sit here and talk about 60 grand and knowing that he's underspent by, 80, and now we're putting 140 into the account
I guess
that we may not need.
Yeah, I guess the way I would look at approaching that, Mark, is, that we make decisions based on the information we have. Of course, we're getting close to the end of the year. We're not there yet.
So it would just be an estimate. That's all I would just say is.
We need a sense. So this is a question for Ruth. Let's get that answer from Ruth.
But I think we did talk about the fact that like anyone's budget that's left over, if I remember correctly, goes back into the town reserve budget and doesn't go into the individual department's budget.
There's some I know, some of it goes into like administrative goes into undesignated funds and things like
Yes.
that. But I think Public Works and the fire department, I'm pretty sure Public Works goes back into the Public Works Capital Reserve. And I'm not sure about the fire department, but because that was voted on by the town.
Well, the only reason I brought it up was because she's saying that he's only got 68,000 in the reserve account balances.
Yeah, and I know we did cut the budget quite a bit this year just to get him closer because he was running a $70,000, $80,000, budget surplus every year. That's why we were able to score the 2 plow trucks that we already had that we bought the last 2 years, without
Yes.
funding.
That's a great question, Mark. So let's get that answer from Ruth and figure out where his budget's at now. And that's another question for him too, I think, is, what does your budget look like for the rest of the year? Of course, there's no way he can anticipate what December's going to bring with regard to plowing, but it should give us a sense.
Yeah, true.
Okay. All right. Great. So I don't know what this is.
We may be getting spammed.
Yeah, I think we're getting some kind of spam.
I think we got
Okay.
some spam there.
Okay. All right. So with regard to the reserve, those are my only comments regarding the reserve request. And I guess my only other comment is I found it interesting that he rated this as a 3. Given that there's 68,000 in that budget, he knows his new truck the following year is going to cost 200,000. I would have thought he would have rated that a little higher. So I guess I'm kind of wondering in the back of my mind, is there something else he's thinking? For example, what Mark said, that maybe he's going to have money left over in his budget, or maybe he's thinking that we would just go out to bond. I don't know.
Well, actually, I was looking, maybe if he rated the 1.5 ton at a 1. So maybe if he got that, then this one would not be as dire.
He'd rather deal with that now and get the 1 ton now and deal with that next truck further along.
Or
next.
maybe it would extend its life too.
Maybe. I think another question is with regard to, boy, I don't know what's going on here, my PC, but I'm going to unshare here. So I think another question is what the role is of this truck. So of this this 2000 International. I mean, I'm assuming this truck isn't a spare, but it actually has a plow route. But it would be good to confirm, that this truck is a regular, this 2000 SE, that it has a regular plow route versus just being in the spare position, and does that somehow change what truck becomes spare? But, it'd be good to have since that's coming next year, it would be, or the year after, it would be good to have a better sense of the role of that vehicle, because that's really what's driving his reserve request. Okay. So does anyone else have any questions for Calvin regarding either of his request or his replacement schedule?
So that's his only 2 requests?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so then we'll move on. And again, Mark, Michelle, if you have any questions for Calvin for the next meeting on December 1st, if you could please email them to me, I'd appreciate that. Okay, so moving on to fire and rescue. The replacement schedule. And I guess I ought to go back. Let's see if we can put this up. Okay, fire department replacement schedule. So, there's a couple notable things here, and I think Ruth touched upon them at our last meeting. One of them is that the quint has been moved back. And I also see that this is now, the placeholder last year wasn't described in any way. And I think it was for 650,000. So I see now a lower amount, and that it now says a used quint to replace truck 24. So I think, he's put a little more definition to this, but my sense is here, and maybe, Mark could talk about this a little bit, but that there's, there's uncertainty here that the selectmen may be looking for some guidance from the assessment. And so we don't know, this replacement schedule may change. Is that accurate, Mark?
Yeah, that's accurate. I mean, I think the chief wants to do that too, because he's trying to be a little bit more, try to understand what the department needs more than just the gut feel type of thing, get more of a study done, so.
Sure. So, the one that's coming up next, and this one is trying to recall here what the age is of the, of engine 21. I believe it's a 2004. Too bad Curtis isn't here this evening. So, this engine 21 is 20 years, will be 20 years old in 24. And so that's the next big purchase coming up, and that's a big one. So it might be interesting to know. I see he's got a base estimate there, a base new cost estimate of $625,000, and then he's using that annual inflation factor of 3% to get to his $700,000. And again, we're projecting like 4 years out. I'd be curious to know how recent that base estimate of $625,000 is, whether he thinks the 3% is adequate. What a little more information about, at least today in his thinking, what does this engine look like? Is it, smaller? Does he, basically the bottom line is, does he think that this cost basis is sufficient? I'll just mention, based on past experience with CIP in another community, I saw one of these estimates once double in a 1 year span. So just within 1 year, from 1 year to the next, I saw the amount double because we weren't carrying enough as a base estimate, and we kept on adding the 3%. But that base estimate was older, and the 3% hadn't been keeping up. And then when we actually got there to that year to buy the vehicle, we couldn't afford it. So, I'd like to have confidence that we have a solid number there. You guys have any questions about the reserve request or the schedule?
No, I don't have anything at this point.
And again, what this
So he's
says is,
asking for 100 grand, is that what if I'm reading that right?
well, that's what we think, Mark. We talked about this a little earlier. He doesn't have the amount actually on the application, but that's what Ruth has been carrying in her spreadsheet, and we kind of, we have to get this resolved. So that's one of the questions is, he's got to tell us how much he's asking for.
Okay.
Okay, what he says here is this amount is to be saved and placed in the fire department reserve account specifically for future fire apparatus replacements. Then he goes on under justification to state, historically, the town has not done well in saving and planning for the replacement of its fire apparatus. Years of defunding capital savings requests or not requesting / approving required amounts leave the town with the financial burden of bonding expensive items that have a lifespan that should allow us to adequately plan for their replacement. The cost of the most recent engine and rescue in the same year should serve as notice that we need a better plan moving forward, as we have needs for other capital replacement items within the next 3 years. Air pack replacement and recent station systems upgrades have diminished the current reserve. I'm requesting the current amount be allocated this year and earmarked only for apparatus replacement purposes. Regardless of what apparatus will be replaced, the town needs to begin preparing for this future need now. So if you go to the combined schedule, and this is where the combined schedule is really helpful. And you go to fire department schedule, okay? And then you look at engine 21 under funding for capital fire department requests, or you go to the year 2024, you'll see right there the $663 or 663, wait a minute, hold on, I gotta get this right here. $663,439. Well, here's an issue right here. I see these don't match. These numbers don't match. So the number here in the combined spreadsheet doesn't match, I believe, the replacement schedule. His number is $703,443. And I see here in the combined schedule, which basically looks at what the cost will be in a given year and what we anticipate to have for a reserve balance in that year, that number is off by roughly, $60,000, $70,000. So, it's another thing I think it's important to point out is that we really want to try to have consistency in numbers across these materials. Otherwise, and they kind of need to be updated as we find mistakes. It would be really helpful to have them updated as we find mistakes, or as we find adjustments that need to be made, I should say. Okay, so anyway, just looking here. Oh, I see. That's the fund balance. Okay. So I take that back. That's the fund balance. And then we're looking at, in order to buy that truck, we would still be looking at, and what she's doing here is she's assuming $40,000 of revenue per year from EMS each year. And then she's assuming that each year we would put in 100,000 and the town would put 100,000 in reserve. And so if we did that, the balance in 2024, and that's the year we'd be looking to buy that truck, the balance would be 663,000. So it would be just shy of what we need to buy that engine. So, I think what she's saying here is that what Ruth is saying is that, we need to be putting some money away, because even when you account for that additional that additional revenue from EMS services going into the reserve, we still don't, in 24, even if we put 100,000 away from taxation every year into reserve, we still don't quite get there. So, I think the point is probably that, we need to be putting some money in reserve for this expenditure that's coming up in 24 for an engine of some type. I mean,
So-
yes, we're looking at an engine that is 20 years old. We haven't had the benefit of an assessment yet, and they could recommend some other type of apparatus, but still it looks, it kind of looks to me like that's a need.
So where on this does it actually indicate an engine is being replaced with this money?
I can't quite hear you, Joe.
I can't quite hear you, Joe.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time to hear Joe.
Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
All right, so where on here does it tell me it's another engine? He's
It's
just got
another engine.
reserve
Okay.
that can be used.
Yeah, if you look right here. If you just go up to Roost combined schedule.
Spreadsheet on the application for money. Where's it?
Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on.
To the 2024 engine, because that's what we need to put it in different buckets. It can't just go in one big bucket and then have him say he wants, right. If I've got the right sheet in front of me, he's got in the next 3 years we need air pack replacements. So I get he's given an example, but what is it that we're asking for this sum of money? What's the exact thing I'm buying with this?
Oh,
I don't think you're buying anything with this money. You're putting it into the reserve account so
But
you can buy something in 2 years from now.
but I
yeah.
get to 2024 and I decide I needed 10 air packs instead of half a dozen, and we're still short in 2024. So
Yeah.
if we're going to put away for an engine, let's put away for an engine for 2024. And if we need air packs in the meantime or something else, and there should be an application in here to go and actually ask for that money too, and then prioritize. No different than what happened last year. Because I don't know, there's no accountability for where this money really goes. I mean, I get the schedule. The schedule is interesting, but it doesn't tell me that this $100,000 goes to replace the Quint in 2024.
Yeah, it's valid. It's a valid point.
And so it makes it hard to say, yeah, it'd be great to have more money. I'd love another thing, but I don't know. I have a hard time with not separating out the buckets.
So is that
kind of-
normally,
It's kind of,
is that normally how things are done? I mean, I'm still new to the town, the accounting for everything. Do you specifically identify purchases and save for those as opposed to saving for the department?
I-
I think
I think
that
that
the schedule is what the plan is,
what the
but if
plan
something
is, but if
changes,
something
then
changes,
the select board,
the
as
select
in the
board
town,
has, in the town,
it's basically using the information that we
using
have.
the information that we have.
Yeah, and it's not a
Yeah.
trust thing.
Not a trust thing.
Sure, I'm
Right.
clear that it's more of a just
More of a just
pound thing that
pound thing.
to put that money. People like to know where the money goes, and just I'd love to see us put
To see us put
$600,000 away for this truck and buy it and know that it's there.
know that it's there.
Something else happened. Something else. Even if it was in the
If it was
car,
in,
I'd rather go take the money,
go take the money.
make a decision at that point that something goes by accident or inadvertently, make a decision, throw the money on that, then use the money that's in the capital reserve or the reserve fund of the department, because the 2 years might be more expensive. or vice versa.
Michelle, would you mind muting just for a second? We're still having the feedback. Thanks. So, Joe, I think that the way the town has gone about doing it here with regard to a, one bucket that is like equipment, equipment reserve, apparatus and equipment reserve, that is a very typical way of doing it that towns do, that they have a separate bucket for a separate reserve for fire and rescue department, for equipment and apparatus replacement, and they have a separate reserve for public works department, equipment and apparatus replacement. Very common. But now that said, I really get your point. And I think that, when I look at the schedule, for example, and I'm just talking from, my own personal perspective here, and I see the quint and the question of the quint, then I'm like, sometimes like, well, is that going to be an easy, like, easy, are we going to be able to convince the town people to vote for it when that question of the quint is hanging out there? Be able to convince them about this idea of putting 100,000 in reserve in this big bucket that could be spent for anything, when that other question is unanswered and hanging out there. It might make that more difficult. So I get your point. I'm not sure, how you address it, because at the same time, you don't want to create like, a more, this accounting system that is, significantly more challenging. And I know a lot of communities, they do it this way, because if you look, for example, at, some other towns, what you'll find is, if you look at their books, and the auditors often complain about this, you'll find reserve accounts for items, for things that were intended 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, that have residual balances in them. And so what they like to do, and nobody remembers even anymore what that money was for. And it becomes very challenging.
Yeah, so I would agree 100%. I never audited towns, but definitely nonprofits. And it certainly does become very challenging when you're specifying all these different items. And like you said, you have those balances, or people are trying to remember what it got allocated to if you don't have good records. And I think that's more where I come from, is that I've seen the challenges of trying to get very specific with things.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, the funny thing about it is, it's almost like they become impossible to resolve. No one knows how to resolve them, because no one remembers what the gazebo account was for. And no one knows how to deal with it. So anyway, thanks, Michelle, for your thoughts on that. Okay, so anyway, we have any questions for the fire chief on the schedule and on his reserve request? I think kind of go hand in hand, the reserve request and the schedule. So I think, we've got I'd like to know what the basis is of the 625,000 that he's using to apply as an inflation factor to. And I want to make sure that he's going to check on that every few years to make sure that 3% is adequate. Because, this equipment often goes up in value a lot faster, a lot more than, some years more than 3%.
I was gonna say that you may want to put, and I'll give you this question about, I feel pretty strongly about him telling us what, I mean, that's the record keeping part that you were just talking about, is that, what this $100,000 is for. And right now what's on the sheet, it includes engineering, survey, design, other professional services needed, but that's not necessarily accurate.
That is, yeah, I should interject there and bring up an important point. That is part of the cost estimate that we asked for them. So that's information that, the administrators, that's part of the form. When it says include engineering, survey, design, and other professional services needed. Oh, I see. And he says $100,000.
Yeah, so that's
Wow,
not what
yeah.
it's
So
good
that's
for.
not what it's good for.
It's.
Is that just part of our, is
Yep.
that just part of our template?
Not,
Well, the $100,000 is,
$100,000 is,
No, but the wording,
yeah, the wording is.
like
the
you're saying,
wording is,
yeah, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I guess
That's
my
a really
point,
good question.
my
Yeah.
point is that this is where they need to say what the $100,000 is for and how we know later what it's allocated for. So the whole accountability part of it is in what we're doing now. So you actually put it in here and this becomes public record. So you can look back and see 10 years ago what you did with the gazebo or with a fire truck or something else. I don't know. I still into the bucket thing here because we don't have that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at the list here. There's not that many things on this list. I can't believe we can't just bucketize this pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm looking at this application again, and I think the issue here is total estimated cost. He's got $100,000. He should have put that under amount requested. So he's asking for $100,000 to put in reserve. That's the bottom line. And so, you can have the total estimated cost for a project could be different, right, than the amount requested. And that's why the form is written this way, because it could be a project request and not a reserve request. So, you're asking to buy a loader and you have, what do I know, 160,000 in reserve, and you want another $72,000. So these two costs would be different.
Right.
On a reserve request, same. So he should have put the 100,000 down where it says amount requested.
Right, but it's really a reserve request for a fire truck.
Exactly. Yes.
But-
And the amount he's requesting to put into reserve is $100,000.
Yeah,
He just put it in the wrong spot.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the next application that he has is for air packs, for SCBA apparatus air pack replacement. Okay. And he has this as a rating 1. And he says that the reserve account balance is $223,000 and change. Description: this amount is to be designated from the fire rescue capital to purchase 10 Scott self-containing breathing apparatus and masks. Justification: it has been known for the last several years that the department's SCBA are reaching the end of their usable lifespan. No further upgrades are available, and soon they will no longer meet the current NFPA 1981 standard on open circuit self SCBA for emergency services. Furthermore, as the current packs become obsolete, the parts to repair and keep them functional are becoming scarce and expensive. Unfortunately, we have not been able to secure grant funding to assist in the replacement at this point. We've already replaced all of our air cylinders needed for the department, so the current replacement cost is only related to purchasing the packs and masks. Additionally, in the current year, due to COVID restrictions, we are looking at some sort of budget surplus. I will be approaching the select board to utilize whatever this surplus is available late in the year to purchase as many packs as possible. If this proposal is accepted, it will decrease the amount that will need to be allocated from capital funds in 21 and 22. And he's looking at doing this over multiple years. So this year and next, to complete the replacement process. My current plan, utilizing the surplus reallocation this year, is to purchase 10 new air packs in 21 and then purchase the remainder needed in 22. From that point, I will be working with the select board to replace packs and air cylinders on a scheduled rotating basis, so we do not find ourselves in this position again. Okay, so he's asking for, oh, so this is actually a reserve request. At least he has it down as a reserve request for the SCBA air pack replacements.
So just so you know, we're not able to purchase those with the surplus from this year. Because
Okay.
they're not gonna get them in time. Okay, so that's
Oh, I see,
his point
yeah.
about, his point about reducing the amount because maybe getting them this year. We're not gonna be able to do that because they can't get them in time before the year end.
So the funds would have to be expended before the end of the fiscal year.
Correct, correct. So we can't
That's
do
not-
that. So it's gonna, that will just roll. Again, I think fire department rolls into the reserves anyway, so.
Hey, so Mark, something like this, would this go out to RFP?
It would. Yes.
Okay. So, okay, so, I think it would be helpful to, kind of have an update from him and maybe, I'm not sure exactly what the date of this request was, but it would be helpful to have an update with him and maybe some coordination. It'll be interesting, to hear a little bit of discussion, I think, Mark, with you and the chief in that regard, but it sounds like, this may be a need. Is that the way you look at it, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is definitely a need, so. Because they're not gonna be able to use them going forward because they know they're gonna expire.
Yeah,
He's actually gonna
No.
he's gonna talk about it tomorrow night on the select board meeting too, so that's an option.
I see. Yep. Great. It also might be helpful if if Chief Moore, and I'm sure you'll probably chime in, during that meeting could walk us through, what happened last year with last year's request, because I know last year we had air packs, SCBA air packs, as an application from the chief, and it ranked quite high. I can't remember if it was a 1 or a 2, but it ranked quite high, and we moved that along to the board. And I know it didn't make it on the warrant, and I know this was a very unusual year because of COVID and all these other things that were going on, and uncertainty with regard to revenue and all these things. But I believe, if I recall correctly, that there were some surplus funds or some unexpended funds last year that were used to buy some of the air packs that he needed, that, some resolution was reached. And it would be kind of helpful for us to know where that stands currently, or what
I think
happened.
that was the bottles, though, right? That wasn't the.
Or was that
actual- I think it was the bottles, the replacement bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we can have a discussion when he comes on.
Yeah, I don't know, Joe or Michelle, if you recall that, that I don't have that application in front of me at the moment, and I'm not going to take time to look it up. But whether that was last year's application was for bottles or whether it was for the actual apparatus.
It was for cylinder.
It was for cylinder.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I'm looking
Yes.
at,
20,
Now,
Now,
so Mark, I know the cylinders though didn't make it onto the warrant. So I'm assuming, but he says here that he's got all he needs. And so you guys figured out another way to fund those, I assume.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions about air packs?
so
so is is he requesting for, he mentions 2021 and 2022.
yeah,
So is the 60,000 for 2021? Or both
He
years?
needs-
Or just,
Yeah,
yeah,
really good point.
really good point.
Yeah, because has it as a reserve request, but he's saying he wants to spend it in 21. Right?
yes,
He's mentioning both years though. So I get,
Yeah, and 22.
Yeah, and 22.
He sent 10 and 10 in 2021, and then the remainder in 2022. I don't know what the remainder is. Is there a total number he had in here? I don't see it.
You know, I look at this, and from my perspective, this is why you have just one reserve. And you say, look, chief, your reserve request is a reserve request. Ask for what you think you're going to need in those out years, including 22, 23, 24, and so forth. And then this request for 21 should be a project request. If you don't have the money or he's got money in reserve, but maybe this is an unanticipated reserve item. It's not in the schedule, so it's not covered in his reserve. But it's a 21 project for X number of dollars for X number of SCBA apparatus to purchase in 21. So there's not a lot of clarity here. It's a really good point. Michelle, would you mind? Could you put together some specific questions on that for us?
sure.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And I do note here, he does have in the middle of this that he did buy the air cylinders for the department in the second paragraph. He replaced them all. So that was 29 cylinders. So he's just looking for the packs and the mass. So I guess my question, and Michelle, feel free to just paraphrase this, but is there an issue with the air masks in relation to COVID? Like, is there a cleaning process or something where they can be used by any of the department, or are they, assigned to each person individually? And then, is that what he means? Is that the relationship with COVID, or is it just that COVID's costing him more money in general, and that he really needs to do this separately?
So you want to know if he needs more because of the COVID restrictions?
Well,
right?
yeah, he mentions COVID in here, but it seems like he's going to go to select board for COVID money for other things. It's hard to tell in the middle of this whether he's saying that more money is going to be allocated due to COVID because of other things. Thus, I don't have the money to go and buy these right out of my budget. Because he does have a reserve account, right? So what is it? Is it COVID causing this? And are these things cleanable? Are they assigned to an individual person, or is it, is it two separate things we're talking about here? It's hard to tell.
Joe, I think they're just, we can ask Chief this, but I think they're just at the end of their life. They have to be replaced. I don't think it's COVID related, but
Okay, all right. Well, that's what
we should ask the chief that just to make sure.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
And
I think it's the same thing as the bottles. They have to be replaced in a certain
certain
time.
time frame. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He talks about that in the application. Okay. So I think that's it for the fire and rescue applications. I think we have one more to look at, and that's administration. Okay. The department on this application is administration, and it's rated as a 3. Request type is reserve. The project title is 2022 Town Office Reorganization. Now, again, this is not a project that they're looking to do in 21, but trying to plan for, what Ruth, the administrator, feels is a need that's, coming along and a potential project in 22. Reserve account numbers, the town office municipal account, the current balance of that account is almost $26,000. Description: at the 2007 town meeting, the town voted against funding a proposed addition to the town office. In 2017, rearranging the configuration of the existing town office was suggested. With the challenges of COVID and possible hiring of a town manager, it is time once again to consider some adjustments to the facility. Justification. Looking into the next couple of years, it is likely the town office will need more space, whether that means moving the meeting room, adjusting the size of the meeting room, making the storage room an office, or consolidating bathrooms to allow for storage and/or an office. To begin the process, the town should consider hiring someone to make recommendations, considering the challenges and financial considerations. Total estimated cost, 20 to 30,000. Basis of cost estimate, uneducated guesstimate. Amount requested, 10,000 for 21 and up to 20,000 in 22. So would anyone like to chime in on this application?
Well, I guess I was wondering, how likely is it that we're gonna hire a town manager? Where, has that been discussed? Is that Ruth's thought on?
Likely.
Yeah, it passed on so, yeah, we're moving forward.
Can you give us an update on that, on the process? I mean, I know it just passed pretty much, and it's a, have you guys, where are you guys?
Yeah, we have a meeting with MMA to start forming a committee to start looking at, what the requirements are going to be and then what the process is going forward. That's the first meeting in December. We'll start going through that and get some more details on it, but the plan is to move forward as quick as we can.
Right. And, so you're looking at a search that could be 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Okay. So it sounds pretty likely that, of course, you never know. Well, we're probably not going to have a town meeting anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, you never know what's going to happen at a town meeting, but we're probably not going to have a town meeting. But it sounds pretty likely. Has there been much discussion of this, Mark, by the select board, space constraints and those kind of things? Did Ruth,
No.
what was your board's reaction to this?
We haven't gone through this. I mean, we've talked about it. We know that the town office is very confined. There's not a lot of room there, so, but that's about as far as we've gone.
Yeah. So it hasn't gone as far as like discussion of, well, gee, could we utilize some of the Grange, the Eureka Center space for public meetings and maybe take over some of that space, which is already really constrained for meetings?
A lot of it has to do with internet connections and things like that. We
Yeah.
can't use the Eureka Center because we get be able to film and put the meeting out there so people can attend online and stuff like that. So we've actually gone the other way and said, what if we wired up the Eureka Center and use that as meetings and things? But
Mhm. Well,
we actually have a storage container too over at the but behind the fire department that we use as well. So I've never been in it, but I've heard about it. So
is that the EMA
yeah.
center?
Oh,
Okay.
no, there's a storage container over behind the fire department that's used as well.
I see. Yeah. So, it'd be interesting to know, to have some sense of next steps. What are the next steps in this project? Is it to, hire a consultant to try to come up with some options to address the space needs? Is it, wait and see until the next manager comes on board? Or sorry, the first manager. Till the manager comes on board.
I think the next step would be just have Ruth talk to the committee here on you know, what are we gonna get for $20,000 to $30,000? Because that's not a lot when it comes to you know, refabbing something or making, you know, wholesale changes to the town office. It's not gonna,
Yeah.
it's not a lot of money, to be honest with you.
No, especially with costs right now.
Yeah.
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 So I think one of the questions,
So I think one of the questions,
we don't have a lot of detail here. Where do we go with this? Where do we go with this application at this point? You know, we really like to see, it's always helpful when you're scoring these applications to be able to see a clear path. You know, this one has so many unanswered questions with regard to cost and exactly what the project is. But, you know,
Well,
but I know.
you know,
see
what
the
I can
need.
do is, yeah, okay. What I can do is, as a liaison, I have the town office, so maybe I can just get with Ruth and swing by the town office one day and understand what what she wants to do, what she's thinking about doing. And then we can talk about it a little bit more in depth on the next meeting.
Oh, that'd be one. Yeah, great.
Is she coming to the next meeting or the meeting after?
She
To
should be
talk-
there on December 1st.
December 1st?
The department.
Yeah, that's not that far away. So, yeah, I'll see if I can get over there and she can walk me through what we're thinking, what she's thinking, and we can have some more information for that meeting.
Uh-huh, okay. Yeah.
Hopefully they'll come and say it needs to be 50 or 60 grand, but you know.
So, well, yeah, you know, I know from my perspective, I certainly see the need, especially if you're dealing with, like, you know, trying to have a safe workspace with regard to these things. Like, I mean, who knows how long COVID's going to be with us, but
Yeah.
It's pretty tight back there. There's not a lot of space. And then, of course, you know, municipal records, like the property jackets and all that stuff, those take up a lot of space. And it does seem quite constrained. I personally, you know, I think it's an interesting idea you mentioned about converting the Grange into a meeting space. You know, give the public a little more space for public meetings, and converting some of that others, better utilizing the space you have, rather than building something new. You know, that's like, from kind of the manager perspective, gosh, that's what I always look for. Can you repurpose what you've got, you know, instead of thinking toward new construction like we were thinking back in 2007, I guess it was. So, all right, great. Any other comments or questions for Mark or Ruth regarding this application? And again, they already do have some reserve.
Yeah. I don't know what that balance is. What was it?
Roughly $26,000.
Okay. Oh, so there's a 45. You probably could do a few things there, but
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. Okay. Other comments or questions about applications and our meeting with the department heads on December 1st?
I think we lost Joe again.
Oh, hopefully he'll join us in progress here. Or if he's got to be fast though, because I think we're starting to get near the end here. Okay, so we've been over the replacement schedules, the applications, and you guys are going to all email me some of the questions that you brought up and we talked about regarding those. And then I'm going to, you know, kind of collate them together for Ruth and send them on to Ruth, and she's going to send them out to the department heads. And as long as I can get those by the end of the day Wednesday, you know, that would certainly be wonderful. So that's all I have this evening. Is there any other business?
Is there
that
any other
anyone
business that anyone?
would like to bring up? Okay,
Nope.
Hey, nope.
do we have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Okay.
so I saw Mark's first. Can I second you?
Technically,
Yeah.
Technically,
so
Oh, are you a member?
Are you a
I'm
member?
not a, I'm not
I
a
am not
member,
a, I'm
actually.
not a member, actually.
Oh, gee, it's getting lean here.
Gee,
I'm
it's
not
getting
sure.
lean here. I'm not sure.
Okay, so,
Okay.
all right, so Michelle made,
So Michelle made,
all those in favor?
all those in favor?
All right, Michelle
All
and
right,
Paul
Michelle.
to adjourn.
Okay. Hey, have a good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for your help.
Thanks for your help.
Oh, here comes Joe.
Here goes Joe.
Here goes Joe.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye.
Oh, is Joe back?
Is Joe back?
I don't know. Did he get?
Oh, wait a minute, I have to admit him.
Oh, wait a minute. I have to admit it.
Hey, Joe. Joe, are you there? Can you
Joe, are
unmute?
you there? Can you unmute?
Oh, he's muted.
There we go.
Oh,
There we go.
Thing rebooted on me and I had all lots of good things to say.
Well, that's too bad. You missed the most important vote of the evening.
Oh, I'm all in favor.
Well, I think for the record, I think we add Joe to that vote to
Yeah.
adjourn. So anyway, right, you send me your questions.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'll put
Sorry
it-
about that. I got a bunch of them here.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
All right, nice to see you
All
both.
right. Nice to see you both.
Nice seeing you. Have a good night.
You too.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Happy
You
Thanksgiving.
too.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye-bye.